All right, college algebra, we're looking at equations of lines and linear models, section 2.5. Okay, when we have linear equations, we had this before, there's two main forms. We have slope-intercept and we have standard. These are the two main forms. Slope-intercept looks like this right here, y equals mx plus b, where m, as we talked about, that's the slope, and then b, this is your y-intercept. So thus it's called slope-intercept form. An example would be like this, y equals 1/2 x plus 2. 1/2 is my slope, and 2 would be my y-intercept, which means x would be 0 and y would be 2. This is my y-intercept point. Okay? When we make an equation, usually we'll make it in slope-intercept form. Now, standard form is used a lot, and it looks like this. ax plus by equals c, where we have some coefficient times x and some coefficient times y, and it equals some constant coefficient. Okay? Now, we can change from slope-intercept to standard and standard back to slope-intercept, but usually when we write one, we write it in slope-intercept form. But standard form is used quite a bit for certain things. All right, well, when we look at this right here, number one, it says the graph of this line right here has a slope of, well, right there, here's my slope right there, -5. And it has a y-intercept of, right there's my 4. So, the y-intercept means x would be 0, and the y-intercept value is 4. So there's my answers. Okay? What about this one? The vertical line through the point -3, 6 has an equation of, all right, since that's a vertical line, it looks like this right here, okay, which is undefined. Now we need to just get this memorized. When we have a vertical line, okay, remember it's parallel to the y-axis, which means it has no y in it. It's just x equals. So it's going to be x equals this x value right here. X equals -3. Okay, so this was asking for x equals -3. We're going to have a few of these, so we got to make sure we get this down. What about this one? The horizontal line through this point. All right, if it's a horizontal line, it looks like this. Okay, which if you draw your axes, it's parallel to the x-axis, which means it has no x in it. It's only a y, so it would be y equals 6. It's the y value of the point. See, -2, 6 is right there, okay? It's got to be on that line. So it's going to be y equals that y value, because that point has to be on that line, so it has to be y equals 6. Okay, number 4. Write an equation for the line described. It goes through this point right here, and it has this slope of -6. All right, it says type your answer in standard form. Okay, now, like I said, when we make a line, we're going to make it in slope-intercept form, and then we'll have to change it to standard form. All right, so let me get a piece of paper here. We've got 4, 9, and the slope is -6. Well, since we know the slope here, then we know it's going to be y equals -6x. But the y-intercept number we don't know, so we'll have to put plus b. Okay, well, I can figure out that b since I have this point. And just real easy, I just put 4 in for x right here, and I'll put 9 over here for y. So it looks like this. Okay, and then I multiply this. So 9 would equal -6 times 4, which is -24 plus b. And then I would add 24. This will go away, and this is going to be 33 equals b, and there you go. There's my y-intercept value, 33. All right, which means, let me move this over, y equals negative 6x. I knew this was a slope, so that's going to be in front of the x. And my y-intercept was 33, so this is going to be plus 33. And here's my equation of the line right there in the slope-intercept form. Okay? Now, what is it in standard? Because the question wants it in standard form. All right, to do that, all I need to do is I need to add this 6x to both sides. And this will go away. So I have a positive 6x plus a y equals 33. And there you go. There's standard form right there. Okay, now in standard form, this number, which is a 1, and this number, they have to be whole numbers. They cannot be fractions. So if one of these was a fraction, I would have to fix that. And we'll do one like that in a minute. But that was my answer right there. Okay. Now, number 5. Write an equation of the line that goes through this point right here, negative 5, and has a slope of 2 over 17, and give it in standard form. Okay, so let's write this down. We got negative 5, and my slope was 2 over 17. Okay, so we're going to do this exact same thing we just did for the previous problem. So in this problem here, I know since that's my slope, it's going to be y equals 2 over 17 times x plus my y-intercept, which I don't know. And so I'm going to do the same exact thing I did a while ago. I'm going to take this point right here and I'm going to put that in for x and y, which means I'm going to put negative 5 right here for x. I'm going to put this negative 5 over here for y. And I've got this. Okay, so I'm taking these values and I'm putting that in for x, putting that in for y, and I've got this now. And so now I can multiply these two, so that means negative 5 right here equals, all right, 2 over 17 times negative 5 would be negative 10 over 17. We will leave this as a fraction. If we change it to a decimal, we'll have to round it, and we don't want to do that, so we're just going to leave it as fractions. But to figure out b, I'm going to add 10 over 17. And this will go away. And then b equals, all right, so that's going to be 85 over 17. That's going to be negative 75 over 17, I think. I'll punch that in just to make sure. I believe I did that right in my head. So negative 5 plus 10 over 17, negative 75 over 17. I was right. So that's my y-intercept, which means over here now, y equals 2 over 17x minus, since this is negative, I'm going to put minus 75 over 17. And here's my equation right here in slope-intercept form. Okay? But it wants it in standard form. So I'm going to have to change it. All right, so I'm going to take my x value and put it over here, but see how they're fractions? I can't have fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it first because it can't be any fractions. So look at my denominator, which is 17. So I'm just going to multiply everything by 17. Multiply both sides by 17, which means right here 17 times y would be 17y. All right, when I multiply over here, I distribute to both of these. So 17 times 2 over 17 would be 2x minus 17 times this. The 17s will cancel. I just have 75. And now my fractions are gone. Okay. And now I bring the 2x over here. So negative 2x comes to this side now. Makes this go away. I've got negative 2x plus 17y equals negative 75. Okay. Now, I'm almost there. This is not right because my x value can never be negative. It's always got to be positive. So I can fix that real easy. I just change all my signs. So I changed the negative 2x to a positive 2x, changed the plus 17y to a minus 17y, changed my negative 75 to a positive 75. There's my equation right there. Okay, so let's check and see if we got this right. 21775. Oh, see, there's a minus right there. So this was 2x minus 17y equals 75, which is what we had. Okay. Now number 6. Okay. Number 6, write an equation for the line that passes through negative 5, 13, whose slope is undefined. All right, it's negative 5, 13, and the slope is undefined, which means it's a vertical line like this. Okay, which if you draw your axes now, it's parallel to the y-axis, which means there's no y in it. It can't be a y in it. So this is going to be x equals, right there, negative 5. That's it. So x equals negative 5. These vertical lines and horizontal lines, they should be easy ones like this. Here's another one. Number 7. Write an equation of the line that goes through. All right, this one, it goes through 13, negative 10, and it has a slope of 0. All right, slope of 0 means it's like this. Okay, so if I draw my axes, it does not cross the x-axis, which means there's no x in it. So it's y equals, right there, negative 10. Y equals negative 10. Okay. Number 8. Write the equation of line that passes through, all right, this is number 8. It passed through negative 1, 5, and 4, 6. All right. Give it in standard form. All right, so let's get this up here. It goes through these points. Well, we can do the slope. Remember the slope formula? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my y in point 2 is 6. My y in point 1 is 5. My x in point 2 is 4. My x in point 1 is negative 1. So 6 minus 5 is 1. 4 minus negative 1 would be 5. And there's my slope. Okay? So I know my equation has to be y equals 1/5 x plus my b. I don't know the y-intercept. So I have to do the same thing I've been doing here a few times. I take one of my points. Well, I'm just going to take this one. You could pick either one you want and get the same answer. But I'm going to take 4, and I'm going to put 4 in for x right here. I'm going to take 6, and we'll put it for y right there. So that gives me this. Okay, so I just take my 4 and my 6, and I put that in for x and y. All right, now I can multiply. So 6 equals 1/5 times 4 would be 4/5 plus b. And so I would minus 4/5. And that would be 6 minus 4/5 would be 26/5. There's what your b is. So here's my slope, and there's my y-intercept, which means I have this. Y equals 1/5 x plus 26 over 5. Okay. Now, I got to put it in a standard form, though. It doesn't want it in slope-intercept. It wants it in standard form. So, like I've done before now, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by 5 to get rid of my fractions, because you can't have fractions in standard form. So this is going to give me 5y equals, I distribute the 5 over here, which means 5 times 1/5 would just be 1x. And then 5 times 26 over 5 would be 26. Okay, and so I'll minus my x to bring it over here. So I got negative x plus 5y equals 26. And my x can't be negative. So I got to change all the signs. X minus 5y, negative 26. And this would be my answer in standard form. Okay, so there was a lot we did on that problem. We're in good shape. we got it. All right, so again, we'll just summarize through this. We take our 2 points. We got to find the slope, which was 1/5. And so since the slope is 1/5, I know it's going to be y equals 1/5 x plus b. And I take one of my points and I put it in for x and y to figure out the b. And then once I know the b, I know my slope and my y-intercept. I take those two, and I've got my equation of the line here in slope-intercept form. But it wants it in standard. So I do 5 on both sides to get rid of the fractions, bring my x over here, and then I got to change all the signs because my x can't be negative. And so there's my final answer. Okay, so there's a lot to that problem there. It's not really difficult, but just a lot of steps. Okay, let's go number 9. Number 9, write equations for the vertical line. All right, vertical, -3, 3. It goes through this point here. All right, since it's vertical, it's an undefined slope like this. Here's my axes. It's parallel to the y-axis, so that means there's no y in this equation, which means it's x equals -3. X equals -3. Okay, what about 10 here? Write the equation for a horizontal line that passes through 11,4. All right, it's horizontal. It goes through 11,4. Okay, well, since it's horizontal, it's like this. So here's my axes, and there's no x in this because it's parallel, so there's no x. There's no x in this, which means it's y equals, right there, my y value 4. Y equals 4. All right, so the vertical and horizontal ones should be rather easy. Okay, now we're going to do some graphing, so we're going to have to go over to the screen here for number 11. So let's bring this thing over here. Okay. Find the slope and y-intercept of this given line and graph it. All right, right. This is in slope-intercept form. See, you got y equals, there's my slope right there, 3. So let's put a 3 in here. All right, good deal. Fantastic. All right, what's the y-intercept? All right, -5 is my y-intercept, which means x is 0. So I'm just going to go 0, comma, -5. Okay. All right, fantastic. All right, now we graph it. So when we graph, we just click the graph. I'm doing a line, so select the line option. And to graph, doing slope-intercept form is pretty simple. We just type our y-intercept value first. So 0, -5 is right there. All right, then my slope, see my slope is 3, which is 3 over 1 as a fraction, which means my 3, I'm going up 3, and I'm going over 1. And there's my second point. And we're looking good. Okay. We'll do a similar one. Find the slope and y-intercept of this one. Okay, there's my slope, 6. Okay. The y-intercept, well, there's my y-intercept value, which means x would be 0 for the y-intercept. So I'm going to go 0, comma, -7. Okay, and then I graph it. Well, I start with this point right here. So 0, well, click the graph, doing line. 0, -7 is right there. Okay, and then my slope is 6, which is 6 over 1, which means I go up 6. My rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my run is 1. Always go to the right. You never go to the left. Okay. That was number 11. We did 2 number 11s. Here's number 12. Okay. Now number 12. Okay, that one's already been done. We'll do another one. All right. Oh, this is in standard form. So we're going to have to change this to slope-intercept form. Well, we learned before you can just divide. You can let y be 0, but then you're going to have fractions. So that method you can't do. See, if I let y be 0, I would have 2 divided by 3, which is a fraction. If I let x be 0, I can do that, but in this case, it's better to just go ahead and change it. So 3x minus y equals 2. So let's go ahead over here and we'll write this down. 3x minus y equals 2. This is in standard form, okay? So we want to change it to slope-intercept form, which means I'm going to minus 3x on both sides to make this go away. So I have negative y equals, I got to put the x's first, okay? And then I got a negative in front of my y. I'm going to have to change all my signs. So this turns into a positive y. This turns into a positive 3x. This turns into a minus 2. And so here it is right here, 3x minus 2, which means my y-intercept is negative 2, so that means x would be 0. So there's my point I'm going to do, and there's my slope, which is 3 over 1. Okay, so I'm going to do this point, and I'm going to do that slope. All right, so let me go back to the screen then, okay? All right, so my slope was 3. Okay, and the y-intercept, all right, we just did that. It's going to be 0, comma, negative 2. Okay, all right, and now we graph it. All right, so we click the graph, line option. My point for the y-intercept is 0, negative 2, which is right there. And then my slope is 3, which means it's 3 over 1. I go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over to the right 1. And there you go. Nice work. All right, so that's number 12. All right, let's go to 13. All right, 13 here. Write an equation in slope-intercept form and standard form. And it passes through this point here. So we got negative 1, 5. And it says it's parallel to this line. Okay, parallel. All right, when you have parallel lines, let me just come down here real quick. When you have two lines that are parallel, like these two right here, what basically that means is that they have the same slope. So like this one here goes up 1 over 1. This one here goes up 1 over 1. The slope here is 1 over 1, which is 1. The slope here is 1 over 1, which is 1. They have the same slope. Let's draw it a couple of more. Let's make it more like this. Here's parallel lines. Okay, they'll never intersect. But look here. This one goes up 1, and it goes over 1, 2, 3. The slope is 1/3. On this one, look at it. It goes up 1, and it goes over 1, 2, 3. They have the same slope. So when you have parallel lines, they have to have the same slope. Okay, so on this one then, I want to make the line that has this point and is parallel to this one. Well, what's the slope of this one? Okay, well, I'm going to have to change it. Standard form doesn't tell me, so I'm going to change it. So that goes away here. So I have 3y equals negative x plus 5. All right, then I have to divide by 3. All right, when I do that, I need to split this up. So this is going to be negative 1 over 3 times x plus 5 over 3. I split those up, and there you go. Now it's slope-intercept form. And here's my slope right there. Okay? Which means it's parallel to this. So this line I'm wanting to make is parallel to this line. And this line has a slope of 1/3, which means this line will also have a slope of negative 1/3. Okay? So there's my point and my slope. So that means it's going to be y equals, my slope is negative 1 over 3 times x plus my y-intercept, which I don't know that. So I'm going to have to figure out the y-intercept. So I take my point here. I put the negative 1 in for x. Okay, got a -1 for x, and I got a 5 for the y. So it looks like this. Okay, well, I multiply these. That's going to give me a positive 1/3. And I would minus 1/3 to make this go away. And then that's going to be 14/3. And there's my y-intercept. All right, so here's my slope, 1/3. Here's my y-intercept. That's the two things you have to have. You have to have your slope and your y-intercept. So it gives me this. Y equals -1/3 x plus 14/3. And there's my equation in slope-intercept form. That's what it wanted, slope-intercept form. So you can see what I have here and see what they have. It's the same thing. -1/3 is the same thing as -x/3. You could type it in either way. It would take it both ways. So we're right there. Now we got to change it to standard form, which would be this right here. Now to do that, they're fractions, if you remember. We can't have fractions. So I multiply everything by the bottom number, 3. So I have 3y over here. And then 3 times -1/3 would be -1x. 3 times 14/3 would be 14. And then would add an x to both sides, which gives me x plus 3y equals 14. And there's my equation right there. And that's what they had. Okay. Go back where you see it. That's what they had here. Okay. Now there's a couple like that. Let me go to the next one here. 14. Okay, write an equation in slope-intercept form and standard form. So we're doing both of them here. The line it passes through 1, 9, and it says it's perpendicular to this line. Okay. Well, now let's talk about perpendicular. Perpendicular is this right here when you have two lines that cross and form right angles. Okay. Now let me see if I could draw one at an angle so you can see it a little bit differently than that. This is undefined and this is 0. Okay. Now right here, if I look at these are perpendicular. Okay. This one here, I may have, this goes up 1 and it goes over 2. All right, so this is a 1/2. Okay, now if I look at this line, this goes down 2 and it goes over 1, which is -2. But if you look at these right here, they're flipped, and one's positive and one's negative. That's how you do perpendicular slopes. They're what's called negative reciprocals. Negative reciprocal. Okay? Negative reciprocals. Reciprocals mean you just flip them, and negative means they're opposites. So here's a few examples. Like if I have 2/5, perpendicular to that would be -5/2. If I have -3, perpendicular to that, well, that's -3/1. So I'd flip that, which would be 1/3, and it's going to be positive 1/3. It's got to be the opposite, and it's got to be flipped. If I have a negative, well, I just did a 2, I'll do it again. -2/9. All right, so that means perpendicular to that, I would flip it, which would be 9/2. And since this is negative, that would have to be positive. Okay. If I had 4, all right, that's 4/1, so I'd flip that 1/4. And since this is positive, this would be negative. Okay, so that's how you do perpendiculars. So on this one up here that we're doing, okay, get it on the screen here good. can't see it. All right, so it's perpendicular to this line right here. All right, so if I change this, I minus the 3x. That goes away. I've got 7y equals negative 3x plus 1. And then divide by 7. So I split this up. So it's going to be negative 3 over 7x plus 1 over 7. And this is my equation of that line right there in slope-intercept form, which there's my slope. That's really all I needed was negative 3 over 7. Now what you can do to figure out this slope, I could have just done this right here. See, this is positive right there. That means it's got to be the opposite of that, negative 3 over 7. So I could have just done that from the beginning. That's my slope right there, negative 3 over 7. All right, well, that's what I'm perpendicular to. So that means over here, I have to be perpendicular to that, which means I would flip it and change the sign. So that means it would be 7 over 3. And since this is negative, this would be positive. So there's my slope. So I've got this point and I've got that slope, and now I can find the equation of the line. All right, so we had to go through that to figure out the slope. Okay, so we want the slope, point slope-intercept form. So it's going to be y equals 7 over 3 times x plus b. I'm going to take my 1 and my 9 and put those in. So that means 7 over 3 times 1 is 7 over 3. And then I minus 7 over 3. And this is going to be, let's see, 9 is 27 over 3. So it's going to be 20 over 3. There you go. Okay. So here's my slope, and there's my y-intercept. So that means my equation is going to be y equals 7 over 3x plus 20 over 3. And let's see if we get that right here. 7 over 3x plus 20 over 3. We got it. Okay. Now change it to standard form. All right, let's move this up a little bit. We'll change it to standard form, which means I've got fractions, so I'm going to have to multiply everything by 3. So I've got 3y. 3 times 7 over 3 would be 7x. And then 3 times 20 over 3 would be 20. Okay, so get rid of your fractions first. This will be minus 7x now to get it over here. And then I can't have my x negative, so I change them all. So it's going to be positive 7x minus 3y negative 20. And that should be my answer there in standard form. And lo and behold, we got it right. Okay, that's number 14. There's just a few more. 15 here. Got another one here. Write the equation in standard form and slope-intercept form of this line described. So it goes through 6, 5, and it's parallel to y equals negative 7. Okay, now look at this right here. There's no x. You see that? There's no x in this equation right here, which means what? Well, if there's no x, it can't touch the x-axis, which means it's parallel to it. Okay, so this is y equals negative 7, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's this line right here. Okay, well, this equation I'm wanting to write is parallel to that, which means it can't touch the x-axis either, which means it's y equals this y value 5. Okay, so it's y equals 5. And that's the same thing in standard form and slope-intercept form, y equals 5. Okay. Number 16. I think you're going to like these horizontal and vertical lines. Here's another one. Write the equation slope-intercept form, the line that passes through 2, 5 and is perpendicular to this one. All right, so we write this down here. It goes through 2, 5 and it's perpendicular to this. Okay, well, if you think about this now, x equals -3, there's no y. There's no y in this, which means it cannot cross the y-axis, which means this is an undefined slope. So we're looking at a line right here. That's what we have. 1, 2, 3, -3. Okay, well, I want something that's perpendicular to that. So if it's perpendicular, that means it's got to be a horizontal line like this, which means it has no x in it, which means it's a y equals 5. Look at that, y equals 5. And all these were the same, y equals 5, both problems. Okay, let's go to the next one then. And we're just about done. We've got 2 application problems here. Okay, now 17 says the chart shows the cost of tuition at a certain state university. Model the data in a chart with a linear function using these points right here. Predict the cost of college tuition in 2004 and 2005. Okay, so you see the years here, but we're going to use these values for x, and we're going to use these values for y. All right, so in year 1 here, which I guess is $98.99, we're going to use this $9,909. And then in year 3, right here, which is 2001, we got $11,188. So I'm just going to take these 2 points, and I'm going to find the equation of the line with those 2 points. Okay, so we'll just move this up. First, I got to do this slope formula. I'll write it down again. There's a slope formula. So in this one, my y in point 2, 11,188 minus my y in point 1, 9909. My x in point 2 is 3. My x in point 1 is 1. All right, so that's 2 on the bottom. 3 minus 1 is 2. On the top, let's punch that in real quick. All right, this is 1279. Okay, which that doesn't simplify, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so there's my slope, so I know it's going to be y equals 1279 over 2 times x plus some b number. Okay, now what would be my slope number? Okay, or my y-intercept number. So I'm going to have to take one of these points. I'm just going to take this one. I'm going to put the 3 in for x, and we'll put this 11,188 for y. So it looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to do 1279 divided by 2 times 3, and I get 1918.5. Oops. Okay. So just like before, I mean, these numbers are just bigger, but it's the same thing we've been doing over and over. I find the slope of these 2 points, which is this 1279 over 2, and then I take a point and I plug that in for x and y. I multiply this, okay, and now I'm going to have to minus this 1918.5. This will go away, and here's my b right here. So I'm going to do 11188 minus 1918.5. And I get this right here, 9269.5. There's my b. Okay, now, so there's my slope up here. Okay, there's my y-intercept. So that means my equation is going to be y equals this number here. Now, I think it's going to want us to divide that. I think on this one here it tells us. So 1279 divided by 2. Okay, right there. 639.5 times x, and then minus this number here, 9269.5, and this should be my answer right there. Let's see here. I don't know why I put a minus. This is positive. I don't know why I put a minus there, but this is right. Okay, so there's my equation. Now I'm going to take that equation, and I need to find what the tuition cost is in 2004, 2005. Okay, so I need 2004, 2005. Okay, so looking at this, that means, all right, let's just go here, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 5. Looking at x values here. See, these are the x values. Right there. So if I count this off, that would be 5, this would be 6, and that would be 7 for x. That's what I need. This needs to be 7. So this year here is 7 according to x. So what I would do is I would take 7 and put in for x right here, and that would tell me what my tuition is going to be in that year 7. All right, so all I do, I'm going to do 639.5. I'm going to times by 7, and I'm going to add this 9269.5, and I get this right here, 13,746, and that should be my answer right there for the year 7, which we got this right, yeah. So in 2004, 2005, this is what your tuition will be. Okay. Now 18, this is the last one. When the Celsius temperature is 35 degrees, the corresponding Fahrenheit temperature is 95. All right, I'm going to write that down. When Celsius is 35, Fahrenheit's 95. When the Celsius is 105, the corresponding temperature is 221. All right, let C represent the Celsius temperature and F is the Fahrenheit. So we have C and F is what we have here. So it says express F as an exact linear function of C. All right, so basically I'm going to do the same thing we've been doing. I need to find my slope. So my slope is going to be 221 minus 95 over 105 minus 35. Okay. All right, so 221 minus 95, that's 126. 105 minus 35 is 70. All right, so let's do 126 divided by 70 and change it to 9/5. There's my slope. Okay, so y equals 9/5 times x plus my y-intercept, which I don't know that. So I'm going to have to take one of my points. I'm going to take this one because the numbers are smaller. Okay, so I'm going to put 35 for x. I'm going to put 95 for y. It looks like this. Okay. All right, so when I do this right here, this is 95 equals, I'm going to multiply here, which is 63. Okay, and I'm going to minus 63 on both sides. This will go away, and this is going to be 32. So there's my y-intercept, 32. So here's my slope, there's my y-intercept, so here's my equation. Now this is F equals 9/5 times C plus 32. See, we're using C and F instead of X and Y. So there should be my equation right there. And that's what it says. We got it. It's right there. Okay. Now, it says on here, solve the equation in part A for C, thus expressing C as a function of S. So we want to solve for C. So basically what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to solve for C in this equation. which means I'm going to have to minus 32 on both sides. All right, so that's f minus 32 equals 9 over 5 times c. Okay, now I need to divide both sides by 9 over 5, which makes this cancel. Well, over here, this is a little bit sloppy now, this divide by a fraction. But here's the thing, when you divide by a fraction, let's come down here. When you have like 2/5 divided by 4/3, you're dividing these fractions. You do what's called keep, change, flip. I'm going to keep this top fraction. I'm going to change from divide to multiply, and I'm going to flip the bottom one, which would be this. And so I would multiply this. So, and then 2 will cancel. This is going to be 1 times 3, which is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. This comes out to be 3 over 10. So you could divide this on the calculator. Here, I'll show you on the calculator here. 2/5. Oh, wait a minute. I could put this in parentheses. 2/5 divide by 4/3. Okay, changes to, and it's 3/10. Okay, but this is how you do fractions. Keep, change, flip. You keep the top one, you change from divide to multiply, and then you flip the bottom one. All right, well, that's what I need to do here. I need to keep this top. I'm going to change from a divide to multiply, and I'm going to flip this. Okay. And then I would distribute that. So 5/9 times f would be 5 over 9f minus, that's going to be 5/9 times 32. And that's going to be 160 over 9. And so I think that would be it right there. Oh, they just left it this way. They just left it like this. So I didn't really have to distribute it because I just left it right there like that. Okay. And then it says on here, for what temperature is F equal to C? What temperature? So you know Celsius is always, the numbers are always lower than Fahrenheit. But there is a point where they're both equal. And that's actually negative 40 degrees. Now how you do that is you just set, since C equals this, you could substitute that in. All right, so I could take this right here and put that in for C up here. All right, so let's get a piece of paper here. All right, so up here we have F equals 9/5 C plus 32. All right, so if I take this C right here and put this in, okay. All right, so that means F would equal, now when I distribute here, these will cancel, that'd be F. And then when I distribute here, the 9s will cancel, that'd be, no, I think I'm doing the wrong thing. I think what I would just, if F and C are equal, I think I did the wrong thing here. I think what I would do is, I would just put F here. And I would just, since F and C are equal, I would just put F in for C. And then I would solve this, which means I would minus 5/9 F. This would go away, so negative 160 over 9 equals, this would be 4/9 F. And so I would divide by 4/9. And then this will cancel off, so F would equal, all right, so I'm going to do my keep, change, flip thing. So I'm going to keep the top one here, negative 160 over 9 change to multiply, and we'll flip this over here. These will cancel, and then this will be negative 40. So at negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, that's negative 40 degrees Celsius. So they're both equal there. Anyway, I think on your problem, you're going to have the same thing here. So I don't know if it'd be any different. Anyway, that's I think that wraps it up for this lesson here. Section 2.5. If you have any questions, give me a holler. I'll try to help you all I can. All right. So text me, and I'll see you later.